going on, everybody? Welcome back to One Grunt's Point of View. Today we're going to be going over the Surefire RC2 suppressor. Now before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you that have just recently joined the channel. It means a lot to me to know that we're actually doing something worth a damn. You guys are, joining at the cyclic rate, which is great. We went up in the last 2 weeks. I think we've gone up almost 30 subscribers, which is huge. Especially when you notice that we were stuck around 30 for a long time, and pretty sure most of those 30 people I knew personally. So it's cool to have a lot of different people. Hopefully everything that we start putting out will start to draw more of a crowd, and hopefully it just keeps getting better from here. So thank you again so much for watching, and let's get to it. But before we get started, a word from our sponsors. As you all know, we are sponsored by Rendezvous Here. Rendezvous Here is a gear company that makes gear at the small business prices with the top brand quality. Now, Rendezvous Here is a lot like Spiritus Systems, except for they're actually in stock 90% of the time. Spiritus Systems, great company too. I'm not sponsored by them. I've been using Rendezvous Here stuff for the last 6 or 7 months now. I wholly stand behind their products. Their stuff has been very durable and very good. But like I also said, it's in stock. So if you want something, instead of waiting 7 weeks for something from Spiritus, you can go over to rendezvoushere.com and use code GRUNTS10. Save yourselves a little bit of money, 10% off anything in the store, and you can possibly find whatever it is you're looking for in a very huge variety of colors and any kind of pattern that you need. He even does custom orders. Now those you might have to wait a little bit for. However, it's going to be exactly what you want instead of having to buy something and kind of make do. He will be able to make you what you want for the price that is agreeable to you, and that's better to me than paying for a brand. With that all being said, let's get to the video. So, the Surefire RC2. Why did I buy this? So, a lot of reasons, but my top 3 were durability, signature reduction, and repeatability. Now, the Surefire RC2 is well known throughout the gun community as being one of the most durable suppressors that money can buy. SOCOM picked these up and ran them for a long time, and I'm pretty sure they're still using Surefire suppressors. The SOCOM lineup is the RC version. I purchased an RC2 not because SOCOM is using it. However, the fact that our military has trusted the durability and the performance of this suppressor, speaks leaps and bounds for the suppressor itself. So to me, that was worth it. As well as I've heard a lot of stories of guys out shooting their rifles before the can ever needs to be replaced. So Garantham has a video. He's put about 80,000 rounds onto one suppressor. I know he said he has a recore, and I think that recore was around 60,000 rounds. Now, I'm not going to quote that. However, you have to rebarrel a rifle roughly every 20,000 to 30,000 rounds. So you're going to rebarrel your rifle twice before you have to touch this once. And that's if you're shooting a lot. Most of us, we're not going to go through that many rounds on the lifetime of a barrel. So for me, this is going to outlive me most likely, and I'll probably be able to pass this down to my kids, and it'll probably outlive them too, because they're not going to outshoot this thing, and if they do, they're going to be able to get a record and continue to pass it down. This thing will stand the test of time. Another big reason was signature reduction. Now, I know, Surefire doesn't make the quietest can. However, if you are purchasing a can based on decibel reading, you're buying a can for the wrong reasons. Now, if that's your thing, wholeheartedly, it's your money, you go do whatever the hell you want to do. But for a can that's going to be on a fighting rifle, combat rifle, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that is my go-to grab-and-go rifle. This can needs to be able to give me a level of noise reduction as well as flash mitigation. Now, flash mitigation being the most important part, I really don't care about how quiet it sounds, because 5.56, no matter what you do, is going to be loud. The flash reduction, however, shooting at night, I've done a lot of shooting at night in my time in the military, and I can honestly tell you that the A2 birdcage is the absolute worst piece of shit that you are ever going to put on a rifle to try to mitigate flash. I have seen M4s with A2 birdcages from 100 meters away behind the shooter, and I can tell you exactly where he is, pretty much draw you a grid to that guy. And all of that could have been mitigated with a suppressor. Now, a suppressor, what it does is it captures all of the gases that are escaping from the muzzle, so all that unburnt powder, unburnt gas, things like that, and it captures it inside of this cylinder here, and pretty much, you know, this thing turns into a giant heat chamber, but it allows a little bit to escape out the end, and that's what you hear for that little pop. So instead of a full power gunshot, you're hearing a muffled gunshot. Now, yes, these are technically classified as silencers. However, this does not silence the rifle. It suppresses the rifle and suppresses the flash. Now, with all this being said, the flash suppressor on, you know, a regular rifle, so the Surefire close time war comp, which is what I've been primarily using on most of my stuff, works fantastic. Does a great job of mitigating that flash. However, in the dark, if you're shooting under night vision from behind the weapon, you're still going to see some of that unburnt powder as the rifle fires, because from the left and right, you might not be able to see it as much. However, from the shooter's perspective over the top of the muzzle, and from the target's perspective looking back toward the muzzle, and if you're the target and you're seeing my muzzle flash, I promise you, you probably won't be seeing it for much longer. But as the shooter, if I'm shooting under night vision and I'm doing rapid strings of fire, I might lose my target in that barrage of light that is coming off of that muzzle. So sound mitigation as well was something that I looked at this suppressor for. It's good enough for me. I've shot this without ear pro on, and I 100% in an emergency situation could throw this on my rifle if it wasn't already on there. It normally lives on my rifle. Pick up my gun, you know, chamber around and go back to work, and I'm not going to have blown out eardrums like I would if I was firing a short-barreled rifle inside of a house. I don't know if you've ever shot a rifle inside of a house. It's extremely loud. With a suppressor, it dampens that noise enough to where it's still not too comfortable. I mean, you don't want to sit here and just clank off rounds on full auto from a saw, but, you know, a few rounds, kind of like a sustained engagement, some kind of thing, I can still communicate with a team, and I can still kind of hear what's going on for the most part. My adrenaline will at least knock out some of that auditory disclusion that I'm going to be feeling, and then kind of rock on with what we got to do. Eventually I'm going to lose my hearing, but that's already happening, so it's not really that big of a deal. Another cool thing with suppressors, if you and your team are rocking suppressors, this goes into your signature mitigation. The suppressed shots sound a lot different, so if you're going up against an enemy that possibly doesn't have suppressors, you're going to be able to tell which guys are shooting when and from what positions and how far they could be from you and maybe where they're at. A little bit better command and control. You'll understand that your dudes are shooting versus their guys are shooting, or just everyone is shooting is what it kind of sounds like. So definitely helps with that command and control, a little bit of teamwork and stuff with that too. And then my last reason that I chose this suppressor, repeatability. Now, Surefire is unlike any other suppressor company right now on the market. Surefire's QD system, it's a locking collar ratcheting system, ensures a lot of repeatability. Now, on the inside of the suppressor, there is an index notch, and that notch, when it indexes with your muzzle device, there is a raised portion on your muzzle device. Those two lock together. It's the same spot that it was in prior, and it's not going anywhere. It locks down extremely well, and then you ratchet it down, and the suppressor's stuck. She's not coming off. Another big reason for this repeatability being point of impact shift. Surefire does a really good job of being able to mitigate that, and you know, they're known for being able to throw this can on and not have a problem with re-zeroing your weapon system or having a separate zero for a suppressed rifle versus taking it off and then resetting your zero. So to me, again, duty style rifles, I didn't want something that I had to throw a can on, re-zero the rifle, take the can off, re-zero the rifle. Now for a precision gun, that makes sense. For a duty gun, I shouldn't have to do that. So we talked about all the pros. Let's go over some of the cons. Now, I only have a couple. The first one being heat. Suppressors in general, like every suppressor does this. It doesn't even matter that it's a Surefire, a Dead Air, any of them. I think maybe the OSS cans probably are the only ones that really mitigate heat to an extent, but even they start to heat up and they get really hot.
Pro tip.
Suppressors are hot as shit. I fired 5 rounds through this, did a pistol transition, and burnt the hell out of my leg because I figured 5 rounds wasn't that much. 2 or 3 rounds, this thing's already starting to heat up. So suppressor covers, I'm not going to use one personally. Suppressor covers, they are meant to obviously mitigate the heat coming off of the barrel, but with that being said, they retain the heat inside of the actual cover, and they keep the suppressor hotter longer, and that can eventually cause damage the longer periods of time, you know, excessive heating up and not letting it cool off. The type of shooting that I do, my rifle and my suppressor heat up extremely fast, and then I put my shit down, I load my mags, I take, you know, I drink some water or whatever, and then I pick my gun back up, and my rifle's had a little bit of time to cool off, so I'm not just sitting there just banging rounds, thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds at a time. So if you're using a suppressor cover, just give the suppressor ample time to heat or to cool off after it's been heated up, and it should be fine. But me personally, I don't have time to be taking it off and on and off and on. I'm just gonna put the rifle down, pick the rifle back up. So you know, you do you, but I just don't really see a need for my application to ever buy a suppressor cover. Now, another thing is the length that you're adding to the rifle. Now for me, I have a short barreled rifle, and I specifically went that route for a reason, because I knew eventually I was going to purchase a suppressor, and running a short barreled rifle with a suppressor full time is a lot easier than running a 16-inch rifle with a suppressor some of the time. You throw a, you know, this is a 6 1/4 inch suppressor. You throw that on a 16-inch gun, and you're adding about 4.5 inches to the rifle overall. So a 16-inch gun is going to be sitting around 20.5 inches, which is a little bit longer than an M16. I don't know if you've ever done mount with an M16, but it's terrible. It's not fun. It's not a good like duty setup running around with a 20-inch rifle. It's better to be running around with a 16 and shorter. And so for me, I'll just do this for you now. Throwing my suppressor on my BCM 12.5 here. This rifle, total length is roughly 17 inches. Now, I also have a 16-inch BCM rifle that we are doing some testing with. And as you can see, if I line them up absolutely perfect, there is maybe a 1/2 inch to 1 inch longer than a full-size 16-inch rifle. To me, that was worth the sacrifice, because now I have sound suppression, and it's really not that heavy once you get used to it, especially if you have other stuff on the back of the rifle, so like an optic. It balances pretty well, and I haven't really noticed a difference in my speed. The ability for me to shoot fast, get on target quick, be able to transition from target to target. The suppressor just really hasn't changed much, so, you know, I put in the time and I've gotten used to it. All right, guys, so the last thing I want to say one more time, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you coming and stopping by, spending a little bit of time with me, going over some cool kit. Thank you for the love and the support. If you guys liked what you saw, please consider hitting that subscribe button, maybe give us a like, toss us a comment and tell me what I can do better. I'm just trying to make these videos even better than they were the last video and the one before that. I want to continue to grow, I want to continue to make better shit, and I want to make this as good as possible so that way I can give the best information that I know how to give. As always, thanks for stopping by. This has been One Grunt's Point of View. I'll catch you around.